fun එක next level කරන dialogue fan blaster.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Thursday, the 9th of January 2025. Budget tabled. Appropriation bill for 2025 tabled in Parliament. Government expenditure estimated at 4.2 trillion rupees, down 2.8 trillion from last year. President's budget speech on February 17. Parliamentary proceedings. Local government election special provisions bill tabled in Parliament. Labour Minister says IMF has no objection against a state sector salary increment. Shipping growth. Hambantota International Port achieves a 22% growth rate last year, matching its performance from 2023. 99,300% growth in the container segment amid the launch of inaugural transshipment service.
Chino Dairy, Sri Lanka Kiren Perata. Obe Vishwasi Dino Sensorain, then Langamati Pharmacy in Labagata Hacker.
Kanta Parisankaragato? Api Parisan.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasave, Vesat Matui Gadarat Disney.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana 24. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest developments of the day. In your top story tonight, the appropriation bill to allocate funds for government's expenditure in the year 2025 was presented to Parliament today by Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. The appropriation bill estimates government expenditure for the period from the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2025 at 4.218 trillion rupees, a 2.76 trillion rupee decrease compared to the 6.978 trillion rupee estimate in 2024. Meanwhile, the President's budget speech, which includes the budget proposals, is scheduled to be held on the 17th of February. The appropriation bill for the year 2025 was presented to Parliament today by Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
Honourable Speaker, I present the appropriation bill for the financial year 2025 to Parliament.
The appropriation bill estimates government's expenditure for the period from the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2025 at 4.218 trillion rupees. The estimated government expenditure in 2024 was 6.978 trillion rupees. Accordingly, this year's estimated government expenditure has decreased by a noteworthy 2.76 trillion rupees compared to 2024. According to this year's appropriation bill, an amount of 29.92 billion rupees has been allocated under the President's expenditure head. The estimated expenditure for the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is 713 billion rupees. The Ministry of Defence is expected to receive 442 billion rupees. The estimated expenditure for the Ministry of Health and Mass Media is 508.4 billion rupees. The Ministry of Education, Higher Education and Vocational Training is expected to receive 271 billion rupees. The estimated expenditure for the Ministry of Transport, Highways, Ports and Civil Aviation is 473.4 billion rupees. The Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Lands and Irrigation meanwhile is expected to receive 208.7 billion rupees. The second reading of the 2025 appropriation bill, also known as the President's budget speech, which includes the budget proposals presented by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, is scheduled to be held on the 17th of February. The debate on the second reading of the budget will take place from the 18th to the 25th of February, with the second reading vote scheduled for the afternoon of the 25th of February. The third reading of the budget or the committee stage debate will be held from the 27th of February to the 21st of March, with the third reading vote scheduled for the afternoon of March 21st. In Parliament today, Samagijana Balavege, members of Parliament questioned government's decision to delay the electricity tariff revision despite the profitability of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Labour Mahinda Jayasinghe claimed that the International Monetary Fund has no objection against granting a state sector salary increment this year. Meanwhile, the local government election special provisions bill was presented to the House. During today's session, the local government election special provisions bill was tabled in Parliament. The President and Minister said that within a short period of time, the electricity tariff will be reduced by 35%. Now, why have you postponed it until June?
It is our aim to reduce the tariff. However, we never stated that we would do it within a few days. Our plan is to achieve this reduction within 3 years. At the moment, the Ceylon Electricity Board is burdened with a debt of 332 million rupees.
The second point is that the CEB has made a profit of 167 billion rupees as of now.
The Cabinet Minister seems to be confused about these facts. Can you prove the claim regarding the profits?
I am presenting this question as the chairman of the Committee on Public Finance. According to the Mid-Year Fiscal Policy Report, page 36, it states that the CEB's profit as of June 30 is 119 billion rupees. Therefore, someone has misled this House.
Many participants in this debate mentioned that we are following former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's policies. I would like to ask, if he were the president, how many times would he have travelled abroad within these 100 days? The current president has only undertaken 2 official trips. Have there been any allegations regarding any minister or MP of this government to date? How can you compare us with the former president?
I am saying this sincerely. What I have observed is that you haven't realized that you are now part of the government. You are still behaving as if you are in the opposition. Don't you feel sorry for the citizens? You keep talking about the 76-year curse without discussing how we should fix it. You were part of 56 years of that 76-year period. Bombs were blasted and even the parliament was about to be taken over. However, we have now agreed to embark on a democratic journey and even the opposition has agreed to continue on this path. If you understand how an income statement works, you will realize that none of these promises can be fulfilled. Therefore, I propose that we tell the truth to the public, admitting that these promises cannot be delivered. Even though we support the Clean Sri Lanka program, we cannot run a country solely on hope. Communicating this truth to the public would be the first step in the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. Tell the public how these promises will be fulfilled. We can talk about Antigen, Aruna newspaper and Derana. But I am here as an entrepreneur to work for the people, not for personal gain. You have no clear path. You can only kill the dreams of the public, not make them a reality.
In our program, you may not see magic tricks you expect. We are managing the economy with patience and a steady plan. Economic result cannot be seen within a few days.
Clean Sri Lanka වැඩසටහනේ.
At the Clean Sri Lanka program held at the Presidential Secretariat, you spent 7 million rupees on singers, songs and models. If the President's Secretary can present documents proving me wrong, I will resign immediately.
මම අයින් වෙනවා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් දැන්.
ඔබතුමාට පුළුවන් ද මොනවද ලිඛිතව ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න ඔය ලක්ෂ 70ක් ලක්ෂ 2ක් 15000ක් ඒ ටික ලබා දෙන්න මන්ත්‍රීතුමා.
රජයේ සේවයේ සහ පෙන්ෂන් වලට දලදේශ නිෂ්පාදනයෙන් 106ක් වෙන් කළා තියෙනවා. තුමාලා පොරොන්දු වෙලා තියෙන පඩි වැඩි කිරීමයි කොයි ආකාරින්ද ගෙවන්න ඔබතුමාලා සැලසුම් සහගත වැඩ කරන්නේ.
When asked to reduce the pay tax, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe suggested discussing it with the IMF. Now we have decided to increase the tax threshold to 150,000 rupees. Similarly, there will be no issue. The IMF has not objected to this salary increment.
Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
2 new justices of the Court of Appeal were formally sworn in today before President Anura Disanayake. Accordingly, the appointments were conferred upon attorneys at law K.M.S. Disanayake and R.P. Hettiarachchi, who took oath before the President at the Presidential Secretariat earlier this morning. Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanatkumar Nayaka, was also present at the occasion. The deadline for the private sector to import rice is scheduled to expire at midnight tomorrow. According to Sri Lanka Customs, 127,000 metric tons of rice have been imported into Sri Lanka as at today. To address the rice shortage in Sri Lanka, government initially granted permission for private sector importers to import rice stocks between the 4th and 20th of December last year, during which 67,000 metric tons of rice were imported. Following a recent cabinet meeting, the deadline for rice imports was extended until the 10th of January 2025, with the relevant gazette notification being issued on the 24th of December. Government has yet to make a statement as to whether the permission to import rice will be extended again.
අද වන විට මෙට්‍රික් ටොන් 1,27,000ක සහල් ප්‍රමාණයක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ආනයනය කරලා තියෙනවා.
As of today, 127,000 metric tons of rice have been imported into Sri Lanka, which includes 50,000 metric tons of red row rice and 77,000 metric tons of parboiled rice. Following necessary inspections, all of this stock of rice has been cleared by Sri Lanka Customs to the relevant importers. The period within which government granted permission for the import of rice ends at midnight tomorrow, and unless this deadline is extended, rice imports will not be permitted after tomorrow. The rice imported by the state sector too can only be cleared until midnight tomorrow.
The ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Isomata Akio, stated that discussions are underway with government to resume temporarily halted projects in Sri Lanka. The Japanese ambassador made these remarks during his recent meeting with the Speaker of Parliament, Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne, at the Parliamentary Complex. Ambassador Akio also expressed hope of expediting the construction of the new terminal at the Bandaranaike International Airport and commended government's efforts to eradicate corruption and foster national reconciliation. Speaker Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne meanwhile emphasized his desire to revive the Sri Lanka-Japan Parliamentary Friendship Association in the 10th Parliament. Island-wide police inspections for illegal vehicle modifications in line with the Clean Sri Lanka initiative continued today. Meanwhile, a number of clean-up campaigns were organised across the island in line with the initiative. Sri Lanka Police commenced an island-wide operation of removing illegal modifications from vehicles in line with government's Clean Sri Lanka initiative. However, during a discussion between Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya and private bus associations yesterday, the Acting IGP agreed to provide a grace period of 3 months to remove illegal modifications installed on buses. In the meantime, modifications continue to be removed from three-wheelers. In another mission launched under the Clean Sri Lanka initiative, officials of Habaraduwa Pradeshya Sabha removed advertising plaques from local shops that were inconveniencing traffic in popular tourist areas in Unawatuna and Yaddahimulla. Meanwhile, a clean-up campaign organised by the Moratuwa Municipal Council took place in Soisapura, Moratuwa this morning. Meanwhile, 2 iron fences on the Colombo Fort Road were repainted as part of another campaign launched in line with the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. In the meantime, fishermen of the Beruwala Fisheries Harbour requested that the harbour be cleaned under the government's initiative. With that, here's a look at some thoughts shared in the political arena regarding the Clean Sri Lanka initiative.
With
the dawn of the new year, the President introduced the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. I support this government initiative because there is a genuine need to create a cleaner Sri Lanka. However, the area in which they began this initiative is quite problematic. For years, there have been statements about cleaning up the country's corruption and fraud. This is what the President's government should focus on. This is what a true Clean Sri Lanka should be about.
ඒගොල්ලෝ විවිධ තොරම්බල් ඇඳුම් ඇඳගෙන නොඑක් විකාර කටයුතු කරමින් පාරේ යනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ කොණ්ඩ කපලා, රැවුල් කපලා, පිළිවෙලට ඇඳුම් අඳලා තොරම්බල් අයින් කළා කියලා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ මානසික ව්‍යාධිය ඉවත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. පොදු ප්‍රවාහනය දියුණු ක්‍රියාවලියක් බවට පත් කරන අඩිතාලමක් එක්කයි සිංගප්පූරුව ගියේ. එව නැතුව බස්වල තොරම්බල් ගලවලා නෙවෙයි පටන් ගත්තේ.
මේගොල්ලන්ට වැඩක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද බැයිද කියලාවත් ජනතාව එච්චර හෙව්වේ නැහැ. අර තියෙන විරෝධයේ හින්දා බ්ලැන්ක් චෙක් එකක් අස්සම් කරලා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේගොල්ලෝ කැමැතිව උඩට දානවා. දැන් ක්ලීන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා කියලා දාලා චෙක් එක මාරු කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් හැබැයි මේ රටේ විශාල ගිනි ගොඩක ආර්ථිකයේ තියෙන වෙලාවේ තෝරගන්න ඕන මාතෘකානේ.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Diabetesol සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
කැලණි වයර් කිසි ගින්නක් නැහැ.
කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ. කැලණි Fire Shield Wire.
This season get up to 25% discount on Arpico Foam and Spring mattresses available at Arpico Supercenters.
General Secretary of Bodu Bala Sena, Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasaratera, was sentenced to 9 months imprisonment today over his defamatory statement against Islam. The sentence was issued by the Colombo Magistrates Court when the case against the Thera, which was filed by police under Section 291 of the Penal Code, was taken for consideration. Police alleged that Gnanasaratera acted in a manner that violated ethnic harmony by stating Islam is a cancer, it must be eradicated during a press conference held in Kirulapane on the 16th of July 2016. Gnanasaratera filed an appeal against the verdict before the Colombo Magistrates Court, and his attorneys requested that he be granted bail in view of the fact that the sentence is only 9 months long and that the appeal process may take considerably longer. However, the Colombo Magistrate refused the bail request, stating that the facts provided were not sufficient to warrant special consideration. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe announced that the central bank has developed a bank recapitalization strategy aimed at strengthening the financial stability of the banking sector. He made this statement while presenting the central bank's policy agenda for 2025.
Central Bank now has developed bank recapitalization strategy to strengthen the financial stability through an adequately capitalized banking system. Under this strategy, these banks have submitted already board-approved recapitalization plans, and the progress of the implementation of these plans would be monitored semi-annually with the ongoing oversight to ensure compliance with minimum capital requirements for all banks. Further, to ensure that financial system comprises strong and resilient banks with adequate capital, a framework for market-driven consolidation of licensed banks is to be established, and consolidation is expected to be facilitated on case-by-case basis. That's another important medium-long-term agenda to support market-driven consolidation of licensed banks.
China's Chongqing Airlines resumed flights to Bandaranaike International Airport with effect from yesterday. According to Sri Lanka Airport and Aviation Services, the airline will operate 3 flights a week from Colombo, or to Colombo rather, from its home base in Chongqing. The resumption of flights is expected to increase the number of tourists visiting Sri Lanka from China, which was the 5th largest generation market last year, accounting for over 130,000 of the over 2 million tourists to visit Sri Lanka. Hambantota International Port achieved a 22% growth rate last year, matching its performance from 2023. The port's bulk and break-bulk cargo sectors saw progress in 2024, with volumes rising by 134% during the first half of the year compared to the same period in 2023. Gas operations at the port also grew, with LPG volumes increasing by 46% in the first half of 2024, as HIP recorded a 100% increase in LPG throughput during the second quarter compared to 2023. Another significant achievement for HIP in 2024 was the launch of its inaugural container transshipment service in April, operated by the Mediterranean Shipping Company. HIP transitioned into a fully fledged container port, handling 43,777 20-foot equivalent units by mid-2024 from just 44 TEUs during the same period in 2023. This milestone marked a 99,300% growth in the container segment. Fitch Ratings has upgraded Bank of Ceylon's long-term foreign and local currency issuer default rating to CCC+ from CCC-. The ratings do not have an outlook because of the high volatility at this rating level, in line with Fitch's rating definitions. Fitch has also upgraded BOC's viability rating to CCC+ from CCC-, affirmed its short-term IDR at C and its government support rating at NS. BOC's national long-term rating of A stable was not considered in this review. The rating actions follow the upgrade of Sri Lanka's long-term foreign currency IDR to CCC+ from restricted default and local currency IDR to CCC+ from CCC- on the 20th of December 2024. The Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as Sampath Bank, Commercial Bank and Melster Corp. The broader all-share price index closed 0.89% lower at 15,811.36 points, while the more liquid S&P SL 20 fell by 1.26% to close at 4,755.38 points. Market turnover crossed 4.1 billion rupees. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the food, beverage and tobacco sector. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers of floating shares worth 305 million rupees. And with that, let's take a look at the rupee exchange rate for the day. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.